the best, the hottest band in the world, Kiss!
What's going on, vinyl community, and what's going on YouTube? It's LJ, and I'm here today to do the inevitable and talk about Kiss Monster. So I've received a tremendous amount of PMs asking me what did I think of it, will you shoot a video review of it, and while it's something I don't usually do, I am a Kiss fanatic through and through. Kiss is in my top 3 favorite bands of all time. Why the hell not? I'll give it a shot. I'm not a professional reviewer, but here we go. So this is Kiss's 20th studio album. It was released on October 9th, 2012. It was recorded in Hollywood and Los Angeles and produced by Paul Stanley and Greg Collins. Paul Stanley and Greg Collins are the same team that brought us all 2009's Sonic Boom. Paul Stanley is also absolutely no stranger to studio production, having produced or co-produced a number of Kiss studio albums and also albums for other bands as well. Before I go ahead and put this back there, let's talk a little bit about packaging first. First of all, packaging is a major disappointment from the absolutely hokey cover picture, and this is terrible. Straight down to absolute lack of any kinds of inserts. As a matter of fact, the album itself comes in just a plain white inner sleeve. The album is pressed on 180 gram heavyweight vinyl. It sounds absolutely phenomenal, but the lack of any kind of inclusion or lack of any extras in the album, you know, whether it be a printed inner sleeve with some lyrics, it's just, you know, it's unacceptable, and it's a little insulting from a band that is not only a marketing machine, but whose founding members have more money than the Catholic Church. You know, fans deserved a little bit more, even in this day and age when you look at, you know, recent albums from longtime acts such as Rush with Clockwork Angels, which had gorgeous printed inner sleeves and a gorgeous gatefold. To open this and see nothing but a plain white inner sleeve was a little insulting. So overall, tremendously disappointed with the packaging, but the pressing of the album is phenomenal. That's what counts. Having personally missed Psycho Circus and Sonic Boom on vinyl, and to this day still trying to find copies to complete my Kiss catalog, I'm happy just to hold it. I'm happy to have it in my hands. I'll cut my losses. I'll take it. So, moving on. In terms of vocal duties and who sings what, it's Kiss, so you get what you expect. Shared vocal duties from Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons. Of the 12 total songs on Monster, you have Paul Stanley singing lead on 6 tracks, Gene Simmons singing lead on 5 tracks, both of them actually co-headlining, if you will, a track. Tommy Thayer singing 1 track and Eric Singer singing 1 track. Hearing that was definitely part of what intrigued me to get into the album, as I really wanted to hear, again, what Tommy and Eric could do. And Tommy and Eric have not only a long history with Kiss, but other bands as well. Tommy from Black and Blue in the 80s, which has left behind some fantastic albums. Eric Singer from Badlands, same thing, and other bands as well. They both have a long lineage in heavy metal and hard rock. So, an interesting split in terms of vocals. We have a lot of tracks from Gene here. And more on that in a minute. As far as the overall sound of the album, now, Gene had famously mentioned in the time leading up to the release of Monster that his intention was to record a follow-up to Sonic Boom. That's important to mention because I've watched a few reviews and read a few reviews, and I'm hearing people say and reading people write that it's Sonic Boom Part 2, it's Sonic Boom Part 2. As if that's a bad thing, whether or not, or not necessarily a bad thing, but like an unearthed fact. And it wasn't some type of hidden fact. It's something that Gene came out publicly and said they wanted to make Sonic Boom Part 2. So that shouldn't have surprised anybody. And perhaps Tommy Thayer, if you can be bothered to read, you know, more than one quick interview regarding Kiss and what their intentions and plans are, Tommy kind of hit the nail on the head where he said, we don't necessarily want to just record a follow-up to Sonic Boom, but we want to create a heavier sound than Sonic Boom, and we want to recapture the vibe, not sound, of classic 70s era Kiss. Now, the sound of classic 70s era Kiss is 35 years gone, and we all know it. They left behind some great material, but it's gone. It is what it is. But to capture that vibe, if that was Tommy's goal, well, we should all just sit back and see if he can be successful there. And was he? More on that in a minute. Starting with the production, though, you have to give him credit for at least trying to accomplish that by recording the entire album on vintage audio equipment, analog audio equipment. Now, from somebody that collects vinyl and a group of people here in the vinyl community that listen to vinyl and have an appreciation for vintage gear, vintage receivers, turntables, and so forth, hearing Gene say, and I had this written down, technology is a seductive bitch. She will seduce you. You press this button, you don't have to do anything. But analog is the love of your life. You can push real hard and it will always give back. And boy, does it ever. It definitely does. So it seems to have added a certain warmth and quality to the overall album itself. Conclusions. Let's talk things lyrics. I've certainly heard and read a lot about the lyrics being corny. It's Kiss. It's Kiss. Anybody that came to this album looking for a Shakespearean dissertation not only came to the wrong place, but they're going to be sorely disappointed. They're hokey, they're rock and roll, and they're not as cheeseball as they could be, and I've certainly heard worse, but again, you know, you come in with the appropriate expectations and you don't leave disappointed. They're not bad. There are definitely the obligatory couple of I pledge allegiance to rock and roll type quotes, and that's Paul Stanley for you. As far as sound, this album is straight ahead rock and roll. There's not a ballad in the bunch. This album opens with a bang with Hell or Hallelujah. It closes twice as hard with Last Chance, and it never lets up for a second, anywhere in between. It sounds phenomenal. It was recorded and produced every bit as well as you would expect a Kiss album to be. Sounds great. The individual band members, Paul sounds perfect. Paul has a great voice. I love hearing Paul sing. He has great rhythms, and Kiss is Paul Stanley's band, full stop. It always has been, and it always will be. And Paul is 100% dedicated to it, to his credit. Gene Simmons, Gene sounds like he always does. He plays all right. He's far from being a technician. There's nothing glaring that he did incorrect. It doesn't seem like anyone else is doing his bass parts for him. If you like Gene, you'll love the album. And with 5 songs under his belt on this album, that's either a good or a bad thing for you. I'm indifferent with Gene. I always have been. Gene's songs have never been my favorite when it comes to vocal duties. I do like his writing. I can listen to it, I can enjoy it, so long as Paul is in there to kind of break things up. I definitely prefer Paul more. Let's talk for a minute about Tommy then. Tommy's playing is absolutely stellar, as it always is. Tommy Thayer is a phenomenal guitarist. Tommy has leads on this album that are actually too good for the song that they're being used in. And Eat Your Heart Out is an example of that. In the last third of the song of Eat Your Heart Out, I keep noticing Gene singing and repeating bits of a bridge, while Tommy is in the background just wailing, just going for it with some lightning riffs. And every time I hear that song, I find myself trying to tune Gene out so I can hear Tommy play. He just has some brilliant leads. And by leads, I don't mean just the inevitable 17-second solo somewhere in the song. I mean little sharp, quick bursts, leads. Tommy sounds fantastic. Tommy's singing. Tommy's track, not only did he pen it, but he sang it as well, is out of this world. Tommy Thayer, when it comes to singing, his strength is in guitar playing. He's no Pavarotti. It's not bad, it's listenable, and it actually seems like a character tribute to Ace Frehley, which I thought was just phenomenal and a really good thing for him to do, to kind of acknowledge Ace Frehley used to be the guitarist of this band. Ace Frehley is a legend, but it's me now. And whether or not that was the intent or not, it certainly seems that way, with lines, you know, lyrics along the lines of I came from outer space to your planet and things. Those are all things that Ace used to say. It reminds me of Shock Me in spirit. I absolutely love that song. It's huge fun. It's got a big chorus. It's got great leads from Tommy. If Tommy's intention was to recapture the vibe of 70s era Kiss, he did it on Out of This World. No questions asked. Tommy was successful. Out of This World is perhaps the best song, in my opinion, on the album. Tommy wrote 1 and co-wrote 8 of the 12 songs on Monster, so he's got a tremendous presence in the overall shaping and writing on the album. Many co-written with Paul, and he's clearly dedicated to that goal of recapturing or recreating that 70s era vibe. Eric, Eric Singer, as always, an excellent drummer. So his playing is phenomenal. His playing on the Simmons written track, The Devil Is Me, is absolutely amazing. He's just pounding on that kit. It's complex. There's great time signatures. Really, really well done. Eric sings All for the Love of Rock and Roll, which in title right away, any Kiss fan is going to tell you was written by Paul Stanley. Think about what I said earlier about things like I Pledge Allegiance To or All for My Love of Rock and Roll. So right away, it's a Paul Stanley track. That track did absolutely nothing for me. It's a fun traditional rock song. It's listenable. There's nothing wrong with it per se, but it never catches fire. And it's the one track on the album I could absolutely do without. I can say this, that future listens, as I put the record on the turntable, if I drop the needle somewhere other than that opening track, Hell or Hallelujah, it most certainly won't be All for the Love of Rock and Roll. Or putting the CD in the car, skipping ahead to a certain track, it certainly won't be that one either. It's there, it's part of Kiss' permanent record, it's part of Kisstory now. It's alright, but it never catches fire. As far as comparisons, inevitably, what does it sound like, LJ? You know, what did you think of it? What would you compare it most to? Should I buy it? Let me try to answer that by saying, if you took Kiss's studio debut, the very first Kiss LP, Destroyer, and Sonic Boom, and you put them all in a 12 by 12 by 12 blender so they'd all fit in there, you put the cover on, add a little liquid, puree it for 30 seconds, and then right around 20-second mark, open the lid and duck. What's going to come flying out is Monster. It's going to be exactly what you expected. Loud, proud, and in your face. Monster really can't be compared to anything else. It totally stands on its own as a rock-solid rock and roll album. If you love Kiss, you're going to love it. If you have to force somebody to draw a parallel to it, they've recaptured the 70s era greatness of the band, of the debut, that energy, and of Destroyer. It's not necessarily equal to it, but those are the parallels that get drawn with the tremendous production values and current, if you will, sound of Sonic Boom. And that's the best as I can do as far as comparisons. Kiss is a band that now 40 years in, they tend to have one seminal, watershed, hallmark album per decade. The 70s gave us Destroyer, the 80s gave us Creatures of the Night, the 90s gave us Revenge, and I would often argue Psycho Circus is a better album than Revenge. Revenge isn't perfect, it was just a return to roots, but I digress. And the 2000s, now albeit a couple years late, gives us Monster. Arguably, it could or would have, should have been Sonic Boom, and Modern Day Delilah is a great track, and there's some good songs there, but Monster is really their fourth decade masterpiece. Again, some standout tracks, Hell or Hallelujah, which opens it, Last Chance, which closes it, Out of This World, which falls kind of somewhere in between with Tommy channeling that 70s era greatness, and so many great other tracks. It opens absolutely hard, it rocks all the way through, it closes with a complete set of fireworks in Last Chance. Don't miss it. Do you know what I mean? Even if you only pick up the CD, do yourself a favor and do so. It's not to be missed. You'll love it. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoy it. Feel free to leave a comment or your feedback, discuss amongst yourselves, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Ciao.